you've done? And Lord, does that outweigh? I even heard a guy the other day say to one Christian talking to another one. Now, this is a funny thing. It's kind of a weird thing, really. One of the Christians doesn't know he's a Christian. Isn't that weird? They all look at me like, what? One of the Christians doesn't know he's a Christian. Okay? Because listen, the Christian that doesn't know he's a Christian, he got saved when he was about 8 or 10 years old. How do you know he got saved? Because I heard him speak in tongues. You can't do that if you're not. Isn't that right? Well, we can do a Bible lesson, but we don't have time for it right now. Okay, in this moment, let's just take my word for it. You can't speak in tongues if you're not saved, because it's a gift of the Spirit. Okay? And the Spirit has to be in you before you can do that. So this guy did it when he was 8 or 10 years old. I remember when he was a little kid. Okay? And so now he says he doesn't believe in God. Well, when your kids have a temper tantrum and say, you're not my daddy or you're not my mommy no more when they're a little kid, do you say, okay, then get out of the house? No. Right? You'll figure it out sooner or later. Okay, so one Christian talking to another one. And the Christian the one that doesn't know he's Christian is using the right language. Weird, huh? The Christian that doesn't know he's a Christian tells the Christian that knows he's a Christian that you're either saved or you aren't. Work has nothing to do with it. And the Christian that knows he's a Christian is arguing about, well, you can't just do whatever you want to. Yes, you can. You'll die faster too. It's not good for you and it's not going to help anybody around you, but you can. Amen. Okay. So why would we want to do these things? Now let's look at this. This is the reason why people do things like I just described. Galatians chapter 5, verse 16 says, This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. When you got saved, did you lose the flesh? We all wish that it would have died. Right? But it's still a part of us. When you became a Christian, did all them unchristian memories disappear? Nope, they're all still back there somewhere, right? And sometimes this thing and those thoughts rise up together and cause trouble for us, huh? Okay? But are we unsaved? No. We're still going in the right direction. We're just having a moment of unclarity. Right? we moved over into something that's not beneficial. Okay. So he says, This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you cannot do the things that you would. Now, he's not saying that you can't, it's impossible to fulfill the will of God. What he's saying is in that moment, you're contrary, you're fighting yourself. Okay? In that moment, not all the time, just in that moment. Okay? And so, the reason why you hear discussions on Christian behavior and why there's so much preaching on how we ought to behave and how we ought to live and stuff like that, and we ought to live well and we ought to do well, we ought to not cuss each other out, right? We ought to not, come to that place where you want to give each other a black eye and things like that. I'm just not going to talk to you no more. Oh my God. It's funny to me. It shouldn't be funny, but I do laugh. I really do. When adults act like 3-year-olds. I'm not talking to you no more. Or you go in the grocery store and because they don't like you, they... Oh my God. Okay. So, if we do these things, it says verse 18, but if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. So you get out of that contrariness, right? And then it goes down through all the different things that you do if you yield to your flesh. Right? It says the works of the flesh are these, and it gives this big old long list of bad behavior. Okay? And a lot of preaching is about the bad behavior instead of being led by the Spirit. Why do we need to know about the bad behavior? We already know what that is, don't we? Do we all understand how to behave badly? Some of us were really good at it. And truth be told, in moments of time, sometimes we still are. Right? But if we're led by the Spirit, then we don't have those moments. And it's not about pleasing God. Right? It's not about pleasing God. Will it make Him happy? Sure it will. But it's not about, we don't do it to make Him happy. We do it because it's not expedient. You know what that word means? It's not helpful. It doesn't bless anybody when we let this thing rise up. Okay? So in 2019, we're going to learn how to be led. Okay? So part of what that means is this. You can, have you ever noticed that some of the worst kind of people that you know can behave really well? Okay, I'm seeing some blank expressions. Think of any politician. Maybe not any politician, but the worst ones. Okay? The worst politicians. They behave, in terms of they don't have fits and throw themselves on the ground and stuff like that. They behave pretty well. Not all the time, but there's times they look like a normal human being. They're not, because you've seen what they've said and done, right? But they act like it. Okay? Does that fool you? No, because you know what that's all about, right? Okay, so do we need to run down through the list of what not to be? Okay, so we need to look at the list of what to be, right? So let's look at verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and the lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. You notice in the Voice translation it says, now let us stay focused on Jesus. Now let us stay focused on Jesus. Can you imagine Jesus having a temper tantrum? And don't talk to me about the tipping over the tables and all of that. That wasn't a temper tantrum. That was the righteousness of God in action in confronting evil. That was not a temper tantrum. Because Jesus was not out of control. He just wasn't going to let them guys have their way. Amen. Okay, so what is it about then? You've heard me say this, probably. You've heard me say this, that everything Jesus did and talked about concerned living by faith. Now think about this. If you have the time for this, please do this. Read Matthew 5, 6, and 7. The Sermon on the Mount. And it's called the Beatitudes by people that don't understand spiritual things. Like it's an attitude. He's not talking about attitudes. He's talking about how to follow God. Amen? When you're being led by the Spirit, you don't have to check your attitude. When God's working through you, do you have to tell yourself to behave? No. You don't even think about it, right? You just run along that way. Because when you're operating in the Spirit, now listen to this. Listen to this very carefully. When you're operating in the Spirit, then these things will also be manifesting. Love, joy, peace. Nobody has to say, oh, that's too much joy. Would you please stop? Right? Or the peace that you're exuding right now, I really don't want any of that. No. Right? Or the gentleness that you're showing me right now, no, we don't oppose that, right? Or the goodness that you're showing me right now, I just do something nasty. I don't want to see that. Right? No, we don't say that. That never has to be corrected. And it's very significant that the Holy Spirit inspired Paul to write it in this order. And he began with the word love. Because every violation concerning the law that is in the Bible can only be accomplished. Every violation that is in the law that's in the Bible can only be accomplished if you step out of love. As long as you operate in love, you cannot violate the law. Let me say that again. As long as we operate in love, we cannot violate the law. Does that mean people won't be offended? No, it doesn't mean that. Because if that were true, Jesus never would have landed on the cross. Jesus operated in love all the time. It's hard for us to even imagine being like that, right? I mean, we can imagine it, but to actually live it. Can you think about this? Think about this. I'm going to walk in love all day today. See, some of you went, ugh. No, it must be possible. You're saved, right? You're saved. You got the Holy Spirit in you. He lives in you. And His fruit begins with love. So it must be possible to operate in His love all day long. He didn't command. He just said, what did He say? He said, if you're led by the Spirit of God. You got to let Him lead you. So what does that mean? Let me tell you something. This sounds contradictory, but I'll explain it. If you say, well, I'm just going to walk in love all day, that sounds like it. Right? I'm just going to walk in love all day. You already sound like you fell out. See? But if you let Him lead you all day, you'll stay in love all day. And it's not, as much good as it did. You remember the WWJD thing that was, people were wearing the bracelets and all of that. And mostly it produced guilt and condemnation. What would Jesus do? The Bible doesn't tell you to do what Jesus did. It says, let the Holy Spirit lead you. Right? Let the Holy Spirit lead you, because He's going to lead you. If He leads you, you're going to act just like Him. Jesus, I mean. If you let Him lead you. So what can I do then? You say, okay, I'm going to be led today. I'm going to be led today. Holy Spirit, You're in me. You're my teacher. You're my guide. You're my friend. You show me, but mostly You lead me. So Holy Spirit, I let You lead me today, because He won't force you. You know why He won't force you? He can't. Why can't He? Because love doesn't force. Did you hear that? Love does not force, does not push its will upon someone else. Love leads. Follow me, this will be good for you. Amen? Okay, we have to unplug. Because I'm at the end of the first point of 3. And we're getting there. But here's the thing I want to leave with you for today. John said if we have this hope of Christ in us that we will purify ourselves, or we will allow the act of purification to take place, okay? It's not something we do. We just say, here I am. Do your work, Lord. Amen? What's the key? Stay focused on Jesus. Don't try to correct your flesh. It doesn't correct well. Don't try to correct your flesh. Focus on the fruit that the Spirit has given you. Lord, I'm going to let you lead me into love today. I'm going to let you lead me into peace today. I'm going to let your joy lead me today. Love won't do the works of the flesh. So since we can't do these things without His help, love, joy, peace, all those things, since we can't do it without His help, we need to get in step with Him. Lord, let me help you out here. This can't be taught, okay? We have it in us, and it will work anytime we let it. We have this in us, and it will work anytime we let it. The way to be led by the Spirit is not going to sound real profound, but it's the absolute truth. The way to be led by the Spirit is you have to be in love with Jesus. Well, I love Jesus. No, you have to be in love. Listen, you all have seen me have my little moments up here, where God kind of overwhelms me and tears burst into my eyes and my voice cracks and things like that. The reason why those things happen to me is because I'm so in love with Jesus. I'm not concerned about offending Him. But it hurts me to know when I hurt Him. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt the one that loves me the most. I want to allow His Spirit to keep me in that place where I won't offend Jesus. For this fruit of the Spirit is love. So how do you practice this? Just spend a lot of time telling Jesus you love Him. Let me tell you, when you start, it won't sound real. That's because it mostly isn't. I know that doesn't sound very pretty, but it's true. Start telling Jesus how much you love Him. Even if you just say, I love you, Jesus, I love you, Jesus. I mean, you can't perfect that. Can you? I love you, Jesus, and what's better than that? You can't perfect that. That is perfect. I love you, Jesus, right? You can't say it any better than that. And all of a sudden, you'll notice something rising up in you. And it'll rise up you in such a powerful way that it'll be hard to shut off the floodgate. And then you're right where He wants you. It's in those moments that He shows us who He is and what He has done for us and what He desires to do with us. See, what we don't understand about, we get this idea of working for Jesus. No, we are His partner. We partner with Jesus. He's not a taskmaster. You do this. No. That's why, we're led by the Spirit. We're led by the Spirit.